You caught me. I'm so glad you could join us. My name is Kathy Kemper, and my husband is the president here at Grace. Now, usually this time of year is when Grace Christian University Women's Connection has a really nice event to kick off the school year. Obviously, COVID changed our minds this time. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Grace Christian University Women's Connection, its purpose is to connect women from all over to each other and to Grace Christian University through fellowship, prayer, events, and projects. Through the years, all of us, as Women's Connection, have provided a number of things for the students at Grace. Last year's project was especially fun as we raised funds for a brand new ice cream machine. We want to give a big thank you to each of you who pitched in to buy this. And boy, are the students enjoying it. Speaking of students, our campus is full, and it's great to have the students back on campus again. Students finished the last year online due to COVID-19, so this fall we were all willing to make adjustments in order to have students on campus and in person. So everyone is wearing masks, and Grace purchased no-touch thermometers so that temperatures could be taken on a daily basis for everyone. And plexiglass dividers are strategically placed in, well, lots of positions. Classrooms are smaller. We're using the chapel for some classes, and chapel itself is outside, weather permitting. They even purchased a classroom streaming system so that students can connect into their classroom virtually if they're not feeling well. As you can imagine, the cost of these precautionary items adds up. The new classroom system alone was $4,800. So if you'd like to make a financial gift to help offset these precautionary items, you're encouraged to click in the link in the email. But most of all, we covet your prayers for everyone at Grace Christian University. We would love it if you would pray for Grace together with us. You will find a prayer list and a prayer calendar attached to the email. So I encourage you to print it off and continue to use it to pray for Grace Christian University on a daily basis. Now we are in for a special treat, so grab your coffee, and I'm going to grab my ice cream while we go to meet Sherry Hoppen. Here we are with Sherry Hoppen, author, speaker, and founder of She Surrenders Ministry. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
I would love to. She Surrenders is an online community and resources for women that are trapped in addiction, and it is mostly faith-based recovery. Find a community of support for whatever you're struggling with.
Fantastic. Can you tell us what the Lord has laid on your heart to share with us today?
Absolutely. And I am happy to be here with you virtually today. Thank you for the time that you are taking to listen to the message I want to share with you. And as the students go into a new school year here at Grace Christian University, I want to speak into you as we head towards what is already a very different looking school year. Whether it's a college campus or a little one heading off to preschool for the first time, things have changed. There's a common thread that I'm seeing that is running in the background of just about everything right now. And that is anxiety, also known as fear. And it's woven through every new beginning this fall. And just like background noise, it not only is distracting, but it robs us of our joy if we let it. There is supposed to be joy in sending a little one off to school, especially since they've been home for 6 months. But instead of those memory-making moments, those moments are filled with fear for both parent and child. 6 months ago, we were told school is not safe, and now we're supposed to trust that it is. My daughter-in-law did not walk her son into school for the first time earlier this month, and that was hard. She had to wave goodbye from the car, and that is so different from what we know. And let's be honest, it's hard because it's not the way we pictured it. So we listen and we wear masks, and we count on our eyes to share warmth instead of our smile. Sports that won't unify us as they once have. And then there's all these new guidelines for social distancing. Hugs are not the norm, or just like we're doing today, meeting virtually instead of in person. It's a really different time in life, and I think we are all just doing the best we can to adjust and adhere to this new and hopefully temporary way of living. And that being said, I want to speak into you about putting your faith into action instead of caving into fear when life throws more unknowns our way. And if I've learned anything in the past year, it is to expect the unexpected. And I don't mean live in fear or live on the edge. No, as a Christian, I'm supposed to just trust that whatever life throws my way, God's got it. And the best way to find this assurance is to go to Scripture. So in Matthew 14, we read a story, specifically verses 28 through 33, where Jesus is walking on water, and he has really scared Peter because he's afraid he saw a ghost. And side note here, Peter is my favorite disciple because he is so human. He has so many questions when he's with Jesus. So we pick up the story here with Peter in the boat asking for confirmation that it really is Jesus and not a ghost walking toward them on the water. In verse 28, Peter said, "Lord, if it's you, order me to come to you on the water." And Jesus said, "Come." Then Peter got out of the boat and was walking on the water toward Jesus. But when Peter saw the strong wind, he became frightened. And as he began to sink, he shouted, "Lord, rescue me." Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him, saying, "You man of weak faith, why did you begin to have doubts?" When they got in the boat, the wind had settled down. Then those in the boat worshiped Jesus and said, "You must be God's son." So in the story, we learn that the moment Peter takes his eyes off Jesus, he panics and he starts to sink. However, when he fixed his eyes back on Jesus, he quit sinking and started walking again. And let's take into consideration here that this is not a simple walk on 1-foot waves on Lake Michigan. And actually, what about walking on water is simple in the first place? The real lesson here is what happens when we take our eyes off Jesus in the storms of life and we try to do life in our own way. The storm intensifies and we look away from the very one who can calm the storm. And so we go through life's battles, drowning in raging waters. The evidence of this is clear in my own personal story, which I'm giving you the abbreviated version of that today. But here's the gist of it. I am a Christian woman who was stuck for years in the pit of alcoholism. I had a secret life, and I didn't want anyone to see my secret sin. And I hid it well, until it took over my life completely and people started to find out. My friends and family became really sick and tired of the way I was choosing to live. And in anger and frustration, they started leaving me alone. I felt rejected and so ashamed, and instead of accepting the help they wanted to offer me, I isolated myself. I just wanted to be alone with my crutch of alcohol, and woe to anyone that tried to get in my way. I turned my back on God. I couldn't drink away the shame and guilt that consumed me, no matter how hard I tried. I tried to convince myself that God didn't care anyway, which in my heart I knew that wasn't true. It was just one of the many lies I told myself. And thank goodness he never did turn his back on me. Because when I finally got to the place where I was ready to lock eyes with him and step out of that boat, it's a moment I will never forget. Because he held my eyes with his, and he threw me a life preserver, and I strapped it on because I never wanted to drown again. I had been fighting to keep my head above water for so many years. I was ready. I was ready for him to rescue me. And that's what he did, and that was almost 7 years ago. And since that time, I can't even begin to share with you all the beautiful things that he's done in my life. Beautiful things that only he can create out of something as ugly as a life trapped in addiction. The beauty of restoring my family, relationships I thought were beyond repair, and really just a whole new way of life. And don't get me wrong, there's been hard things too, and I did have to learn how to get through these hard things without numbing myself with a substance. It was all I knew, so it didn't happen overnight. I had a lot to learn, but the number one thing I have learned is that if I lock eyes with him, the life preserver I mentioned, it's his hand, and I hang on tight. I hang on tight in the storms of life, and I am encouraged every step of the way when I stay focused on him. The secret is to never look away. I share my story to encourage you that you can go forward this fall and this season with confidence. Keep your eyes firmly locked on him because fear will sink you, but your faith will save you. I challenge you with Peter's story and my own to embrace this principle when the storms of life are rumbling. Look for Jesus. And when you find him, be obedient because he might ask you to do something that doesn't feel very comfortable. Maybe a little out of the box. And I can relate to that too because when I quit drinking and surrendered my sin to him in November of 2013, I said, Lord, this time I'll do whatever you want me to. And at the time I thought it meant just quit drinking. I was so wrong. He wanted me to tell others what he had brought me through, to share what faith in him can do. And the very thing that I kept a secret was now something he wanted me to share in public. So how about Argentina? I asked. They probably want to hear my story there. And no, he said, West Michigan, Sherry. So when the opportunity came, I did it. I told my story in front of a group, and I'm being honest when I told you telling you I'm scared to death at the time. But he not only brought me to it, he brought me through it. So in this season, I encourage you to keep looking for Jesus. We are in a storm right now, and when this one settles down, there's going to be another one. And it helps to have a plan, a simple and effective plan. Plan to keep your eyes on the only one who can calm the storms of life, and you will have the peace that only he can give you to carry on. And I want to leave you with this verse from John 16, verse 33, which says, I've said these things to you so that you will have peace in me. In the world you will have distress, but be encouraged. I have conquered the world. Thank you for being here, and I pray that you have found a nugget of truth to take with you today.
Well, thank you, Sherry. That was really encouraging to hear your words. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Now, don't forget, look at your email and find the link for the prayer calendar, and don't forget to pray for Grace Christian University with us.